just explaining a forearm routine I did 6/29/2025. Um, it was rather short in exercise variation, but it was long with sets and reps. So I started with some pronation, and I just did that with this karate belt here. It's just got a knot tied at the bottom, and then just weight added to it. So I'll just kind of show you what pronation is if you're not for sure, but you just loop it around your thumb and then just make a fist, and then you're just turning your hand towards the thumb, or the way the thumb's pointed, I guess. So that's all you do. I try to do more, you can do little short reps like that. That'll allow you to use heavier weight, or you can just do the full reps. This workout I tried to do more full reps. As the weight gets heavier, you're going to kind of naturally shorten it a little bit, but I tried to not do these reps. This is more like a top end of the pronation, and then I tried to do more full range. So I'm sure some of them probably don't look full range. I probably may have cut the reps a little bit, but I tried not to. But yeah, I just kept that. I did 9 total sets. Started out with 12 reps, 8 reps, 3 reps, 1 rep, and then did a down set of 12 reps. So nothing too crazy there. The next movement that I did was sledgehammer levers. Now, something I'm trying to do here is keep both of my hands even with the weight that I'm using. So my right hand can use more weight, but my left hand kind of holds it back in that aspect. So you'll kind of notice by the video that my left hand looks like it's fatiguing out, and then my right hand does it fairly easily. The flexibility in my left wrist is also not as good. So as I'm coming down with the weight, you kind of notice I dip my hand a little more on my left hand than my right. So this exercise, or this routine, I did the actual sledgehammer. Sometimes I like to use this sledge bell, is what I call it. It's thinner, the handle is, and it's easier for me to use. But for variation, I'll use the actual sledgehammers, but it is a little bit harder on my wrist, especially my left wrist. But just kind of wanted to explain that difference to you. You'll notice sometimes I use this one, and then sometimes I use just the regular sledgehammers. But the handle is the differing factor in the weight that I'll use. My right wrist seems okay with the sledgehammer, but it does cause a little bit of discomfort later on. But I'm trying to toughen my wrists up, so trying to stick with using the normal sledgehammer from time to time. But if you do that, I always recommend starting light. You can always work up in weight, so there's no harm in starting light. You can always add weight to it. But if you fail, that could be catastrophic in some senses. You could injure your wrist or whatever. But always start light, especially with that, because it's a big flexibility issue in the wrist, and plus you want to use the proper form. You want to try to keep your arm straight. It will bend a little bit as you get to the bottom if you have flexibility issues, but try not to let it do that. And for me, sometimes that helps. As the weight is coming down, you kind of push your shoulder forward. That's what helps me anyways. So you're kind of thinking of extending your arm as the weight is coming down. That helps me anyways. I'm no expert by any means, but I have been doing this movement for quite some time, and I do feel that it's very beneficial for the whole arm in general. When I first started doing these, I really felt it in my bicep. I know that's strange, but you're holding your arm extended, and the bicep is working. you wouldn't really think it is. But if you've never done these before, like I said, start light, and you may feel it in your bicep, maybe you won't, but I did. So it took a few sessions for my bicep to get used to that extended arm with a load at the end. But it did, I got used to it, and don't really feel it in my bicep too much anymore. So once again, started off, did 3 reps, kept the reps rather light, or kept the reps rather short, and worked up to a heavier weight for a single, and then did a down set of 6 reps. The reasoning for that was, like I said, this thicker handle kind of tears my wrist up pretty quick. So I kept the reps smaller or lower, whatever you want to say there. So nothing too complicated there. Just worked up slowly to a heavy weight, and then did a down set. And as I said before, I'm trying to keep both hands even in the reps on all the movements I'm doing. And I'm just trying to build the left up equally with the right. So still doing that experiment. It is kind of aggravating because I could go heavier, but not with the left, only with the right. But it is what it is. So the last movement that I did is just a wrist curl with a 2x4, and the reason I chose this movement is I've seen people do wrist curls with the plates, and I kind of wanted a way to be able to load that without using a plate. And so I got the idea to use a 2x4, and just made a hole at the end, and then put a bolt on the end here, so I can just unscrew this, and then I can just add the weights that I want, and then I just screw it back on there. So this bolt itself is pretty heavy, so I use that just to start out. But it's a rather simple movement. You just put your hand on there the way that you want. You will need to position it, and then just go down as low as you can, and then just up. So pretty self-explanatory movement. It'll work more of your fingers and your wrist at the same time. Yeah, so the length of the board, I kind of wanted to mimic about a 45-pound plate, because I would like to, at some point, hopefully get to a 45-pound plate. Don't know if that'll ever happen, but I'm at least going to try. So I kind of chose a length that was similar to that. I believe this is a little bit longer than a 45-pound plate, but it's close to it. So on this one, I worked with 12 reps for 3 sets, and then 8 reps for the final set. And only did 4 sets. My wrist, like forearm area, was pretty sore because I did do a farmer's walk the previous day for max distance. So my forearms are still pretty fatigued from that. So I kept the sets rather short for that, only 4 sets. The other movements weren't really affected by the soreness from that. So pretty straightforward forearm routine. Wanted to get some pronation in, sledgehammer levers, and then some wrist curls to finish it off. So if you have any tips, questions, comments, leave them down below. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.